I wish I did these 5 steps before I modified my Toyota Tacoma. I'm gonna show you guys these 5 steps so you don't make the same mistakes I did. Step 1 is gonna be to identify your goals and then write those goals down. When you're trying to identify your goals for your Tacoma, I recommend thinking about how you're gonna use the truck. Are you gonna use it as a race truck, an overland rig, to look cool, a daily driver? And that's gonna get you to think about how you wanna mod it. Are you looking for better fuel economy? And then you're gonna think about tire size. So as you're thinking about these goals, think about those key points, write them down so you don't lose your path along the way and spend money where you don't want to spend it. Now we're on to step 2, and that's realistic expectations. Everyone likes to dream big. I'm one of them. But sometimes you need to be a little bit realistic and think about how you're going to get it done. And that's when you think about your budget. I made this chart right here, and as you can see, this chart easily explains how to build your Tacoma. If you have more money and you want to stay stock, you can do the OEM Plus. I'm a big fan of this. This is a guy who likes to daily drive his truck, but still wants pretty good suspension, good tires, good fuel economy, and all around just a good truck. Big fan of OEM builds. And then if you want to do more of a modded look, you can check out the bottom chart down here. And as you see, the more money you have, the more modded your truck can be. You can go all out like this guy down here, a wide body, long travel, all kinds of crazy things. Or you can go my route, and I wanted a modded truck for overlanding, but I don't have the funds for it, so I had to do a little bit cheaper things and cheaper options on every one of my steps. So this is kind of a simple chart to explain if you have more money, what your truck could look like. If you have less money, what your truck can look like. And it kind of goes with how your goals align with your build. Number 3 is going to be research, and then research. Can't tell you guys how much time I've spent researching things on my truck. A bunch of different companies make a ton of different things for these trucks. So you need to identify, for one, what you want, and then figure out who makes the best thing. I like to divide this up between 3 different categories. I do price to style to quality. And that's basically how I pick my parts. Now, most of the time, you know, if you do a cheaper option, you're gonna lose on the other options. And that's just how it is. Higher quality, price goes up, style goes up. So it's kind of like a pie chart, and you can only have so much pieces out of that pie. That's kind of how I like to pick my parts out. So I recommend doing all the research you can for anything that you're trying to buy. My number 4 tip I wish I knew, and I actually did know this one because I used it in my build, is to buy used, and don't be afraid of used parts. A ton of my truck parts I got used, and there's a couple of awesome benefits for this. For one, when you go and drive to pick something up, it kind of turns it into its own little adventure. So you can make a whole day out of this. Some people don't like that. Some people just like to have the parts shipped. I personally like to turn it into an adventure. I use Facebook Marketplace for a ton of my parts. For example, I use it for my wheels, my rock sliders, believe it or not, and my suspension as well. So everything on this truck I tried to find used, and it saved me a ton of money over the year of building this truck. Also, I get my stuff off Facebook Marketplace. Probably already mentioned that. Be sure before you go to meet somebody, it's in a public space, so you're safe, they're safe, and there's not anything crazy going on. That's my biggest recommendation. Plus, you know, it's kind of fun to haggle. You know, you tell them $50 less when you get there. You might make them mad. Worst you can say is no, and you just pay the price anyways. But, you know, I'm a big fan of just trying to haggle a little bit. Maybe it's just because I'm cheap. My 5th step is to install the mods yourself. I know everyone is at a different level in their mechanical, you know, knowledge, and that's fine. I'm not that good at it myself, but when you try to install things yourself with a buddy, you take a weekend to do it, it takes that money you've already spent on the mod and turns it into its own little adventure as well. I'm a big fan of, you know, coming together with my friends or my dad, working all day trying to get something installed, having that memory, because that money I spent on that part, it just adds to that value. You know, you can have your stuff put on by somebody else. I don't fault anybody from that. I know people all have different times and, you know, the time available to spend on stuff. But for me personally, when I look at like my roof rack, for example, I don't just see a roof rack. I see about 7 hours of my dad and I trying to get that roof rack on when it was like, I don't know, 30 degrees out. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any recommendations for building these trucks. That's kind of my top 5, you know, words of advice that I've learned over the year and a half of building this truck and other vehicles. But if you have any more experience that you would like to share, let me know. I'd like to hear everyone's feedback on how they built their trucks. My final step, and I know I said 5, but I'm gonna give you a little bonus step here, and that's to always keep looking. Your build doesn't have to end. If you finish your build and you think it's finished, there's always something else to do, another little thing you could do. Always enhance, identify your problems, and the only way to do that is by using your truck. If you go out on an adventure and notice your suspension is not how you like it, or your tires aren't performing how you like, or maybe your roof rack needs to be a little bit different, you can always write that down in your notes, take note of that, and that's the main way I build my truck is. When we go out, I use my truck, and whenever something annoys me, I write it down. I'm like, oh, well, we're gonna have to change that, or I'm gonna have to buy that because that annoyed me. For example, my last little adventure video, which you can check out right here, when I went out, I realized my front suspension after a while started getting squeaky. I still haven't fixed that, but I have a feeling my bushings just need a little bit grease in there. So, you know, I had to write that down in my list so I don't forget it. I also think I need to change out the bearing in the front diff to a clamshell because I'm starting to notice a vibration. I had to write that down. So your build is always going to be changing. Maybe something breaks. You're always going to be evolving your build. So never just give up and think that you're done. Speed round, because I just remembered one more that I want to tell you guys. Don't listen to everybody. You don't even have to listen to me. When I was first doing research and watching videos on this truck, everyone told me to start at the bottom and work our way up. I didn't want to do that. I started with the tent and worked my way down. Probably not recommended, as everyone says, but I wanted to make sure that I enjoyed this hobby of overlanding and I had fun with it and actually enjoyed it before I dumped any money into how I wanted to build the truck. So I started up here and worked my way down. You can do that as well if you want to do an overland build. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing. Go against the grain a little bit. It's more fun and you can be a little bit more original that way. I know that was more than 5, but hopefully it helped you guys out. If you liked this video, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. I got all kinds of videos you can check out, but I'm gonna be honest with you, it's pretty early in the morning right now. I'm getting cold as always with these hands. So I'm gonna head back inside, check out this video right here. It's pretty good, and I'll see you guys later.